Picture this. You're in elementary school. It's a cold winter morning at 7 a.m. in the dead ass of January, and it's colder than Canada outside. I should know what that feels like. I'm Canadian.
How you doing, Harry?
You know you have a science test that day that you didn't study for because hot damn! Yu-Gi-Oh! Had a 2-part back-to-back special on last night that you wouldn't have missed if your sibling was dying.
It's time to do these nuts.
But then the greatest thing happens. Your mom kicks down your door with the might of 1,000 men, picks up your awkward prepubescent body like Simba from The Lion King, and shouts those magical words.
Can't we have a 3D environment classic Sonic game for crying out freaking loud? I'm tired of all you pricks!
Yeah, or maybe not that. I was thinking something more along the lines of your mom coming in your room and telling you, school is canceled. Well, hot dog. Hot dog, hot diggity dog. School cancellations were the absolute best, especially if you had them on a Monday or a Friday. Meant you got an extended weekend, and what kid did not want an extended weekend? If school was canceled, that meant 3 things. I got macaroni and cheese for lunch, I got to watch SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents all freaking day long, and my mom every now and again would let me go to the store and rent a game. Game rentals were a huge part of my childhood. We didn't have all the money in the world, so 90% of the time when I would ask, it would probably be a no, but my parents loved me enough that every now and again they'd cave and they would take me to the store to rent a new game, and that was always the greatest feeling in the world. I can be very persuasive when I want to be. Ma! 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 Mom! 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 Mum! Mummy! Mum! 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 Mom! Mom, I swear if you don't take me to the store right now and let me rent Hey You Pikachu, I'm gonna do it! We didn't have any of the big chains like Blockbuster in my town. Closest thing we had to that was a store called Microplay and a place called Movie Gallery, which is a franchise, but they shut down when I was still pretty young, and I remember that when they shut down, I thought it was my fault, and I'll get into that later. Which pretty much just left me with the mom and pop movie and game rental shop in my town, VideoMax. It really is sad to say that with the digital age, video game rentals aren't much of a thing anymore. So much in fact that Blockbuster has gone completely out of business. But those of us who got the chance to grow up with game rentals not only have some cherished memories, but also have some awesome stories to tell. As a matter of fact, why don't we hear about some of those stories now?
Hi, my name's James Llewell. I'm a billiards professional. You might know me from my YouTube channel, ProBilliards.com. When I was a kid, I used to do swimming lessons once a week. I was probably like 6 or 7 years old. I think I was like maybe 1st or 2nd grade. It was before I had a GameCube. I still had the N64, but the GameCube was out, so renting N64 games was a lot cheaper. So going to swimming lessons, every time I was finished that, my mom would take me on the way home to a video rental store. And every single time, I would rent Yoshi's Story because I was a dumb baby-ass little kid, and I was like, hey, Yoshi's pretty cute, wanna bop him on the head, my little dinosaur friend. And every single time I get Yoshi's Story, and this is probably like, we go there again, we're returning it, and I just wanted to rent it again. This is probably the 4th or 5th time, and my mom's like, James, you get Yoshi every single time. Why don't we get a different game? And she just looks at the shelf, picks something completely random. Rayman, this looks cool. Look at Rayman, you know, he's running away from the shit. That looks cool. And I threw a fit. I was like, no, I want Yoshi. Rayman looks stupid. He's got like a floating head. It doesn't even look cool. Because, you know, it's a more like out there Frenchish character design. It was something a little more outside of my comfort zone and what I recognized as appealing or cool at that age. So I didn't throw like a tantrum or anything, but I was pretty sour about not getting Yoshi for like the 5th time in a row, and I brought it home. And man, like thinking back to that moment, there are so many bad N64 games, and my mom looking at the shelf just picking something random, she could have picked anything. But she happened to pick one of the best platformer games ever made, and at the time Mario 64 was one of my favorite games ever, and Rayman 2 was like the first time I played a 3D platformer that wasn't Mario, and I like, oh man, I just fell in love with it.
Coming up next, Qwazyd0gg. After that, Jigsawflex.
To start everything off, I want to say that I lived in an exceptionally small town. So small, in fact, that my grade 8 class had 5 people, counting myself, that moved on into high school. But we lived about an hour away from the closest rental store to get any decent games anyway. There was a little store near me, but it really just had a whole lot of junk. My father at the time actually worked in, I guess we'll call it Moncton, the city that I guess he worked in. He would usually be home right around like 5 p.m. and then he was home all weekend and then back to school on Monday. So my task starting at the beginning of the week on Monday was to think for the entire week about what game I wanted to rent for the weekend. Once I had my decision, it was my job every single Friday to call the store. It's called Gamezilla. Believe it or not, it's actually still around. And I would call and I would get Jason. And Jason and I had a great friendship at the time, which is weird to say because he was an adult and I would have been a small child. But I would tell Jason that my father was on his way and could you please hold? One of them was Gecko. I remember I really wanted, if that's even the name, I think it was N64, but it had a gecko. We literally did this song and dance over and over again for years. Jason would always expect my father every Friday, the same time, and he actually started making like gift bags of sometimes like 5 or 6 or 7 games that just weren't renting very well, or he just knew they weren't gonna move, and my dad would bring them home and I'd play them all weekend long, and then they would go back on the Monday, and that was pretty well my regular routine until I either grew out of that myself or got my license at 16 and was able to go and either rent or buy games more efficiently on my own. That's the gaming rental memory or experience over the long term that I'm going to take with me and I'm going to remember the most.
Please, don't do it. Please do it. Yes, okay, finally. I don't know how young you guys are, but if you remember Blockbuster Video, that's where it all started for me. Honestly, I had mixed feelings renting video games there because some of the games that I rented were either really trash, like Pokemon Channel, and Super Paper Mario was actually a really good game that I never beat because I only had a week and was also only allowed to play video games an hour for Fridays, and I'm pretty sure like 30 minutes on the weekends. But yeah, Galaxy was the last game I ever rented at that store before it went bankrupt, and so happened to be the most memorable game I've ever had to rent. So what makes this game super memorable? Honestly, I think it's the fact that I was super hyped for this game to come out. I remember back in 2006, I believe it was either E3 or GameSpot that had this like video beta of Super Mario Galaxy, and back then it wasn't beta, it was just like the game in the works, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever because back then Super Mario Sunshine was my favorite game before Galaxy came, and I think just over time as I watched more YouTube videos about Super Mario Galaxy itself, had some friends that were really excited about this game to come out, really just, I don't know, like it made the experience better when I actually was able to play it. Really, I wish I recorded myself first ever playing this game because I was like super giddy. I was just like holding the controller like this, like, oh, I can't wait to play Beehive Galaxy again, even though I played it during that GameStop demo. But to finally brush the rental story aside, my mom finally got a copy for me that I've always wanted. And sure, I wasn't able to play as much as I wanted to, but eventually as I got older, I got to appreciate the game more and more as I was able to play. And luckily for me, when I started YouTube, I found some cool YouTubers that like similar games as me. So eventually, some of them became my friends, and Super Mario Galaxy became one of the talks some of the days. The Super Mario Galaxy talk came and go at times, and I remember vividly some of my friends and I doing Let's Plays of the first one and the second one. But I think one of the fondest memories I've ever had playing the game was doing a versus with my friends. And it's crazy that I think I've just had so many opportunities to play this game that it just eventually came to be that this was the game for me, and I'm not complaining. I love Super Mario Galaxy, and I will continue to love that and the second one. Thank you so much, Blockbuster, for setting this foundation in furthering my experiences with Super Mario Galaxy. I think without the rentals, I wouldn't have like such a strong like connection with the Galaxy so early. Maybe at a later age, but I probably wouldn't have had the verses, the Let's Plays, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, without it, I don't think Super Mario Galaxy would be my favorite game right now. Thank you so much. You facilitated enough closure for me, so be gone. Thanks.
One of my favorite memories renting a video game a long time ago goes all the way back to when I was a little kid renting games for the Nintendo Entertainment System at Blockbuster. My parents took me to a local Blockbuster, and this specific Blockbuster by my house had the games in like this weird case to where I couldn't really see anything on the
search results. The first is from Reddit.
I didn't even say okay Google.
Oh, the FBI.
As I was saying, this Blockbuster had the games in a case, so I couldn't pull out the games and look on the back. And what I saw from kind of far away is I saw a game that showed a guy on the front cover, a good-looking blonde man holding a bag of money, a suitcase that said top secret, a lady fawning over him going, "My hero," with some little characters on the side. It was bright. It looked like a comic strip. It looked like something I wanted to play and get my hands on. So I was like, "Mom, Dad, this is the game I want. This is the game I want to play. Get me Wall Street Kid." And I walked away. I went to the car and I'm like, "I'll be waiting in the car for my game." I get the game. My parents bring it to me. I go home. I put in the game. It looks epic. And then I look on the back of the box and I'm like, uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. I put in the game, press power, turn on the game. It's literally a stocks and bonds simulator. The game is all about trades and making purchases and how much you want to sell your financial investments for. It was probably the worst game I've actually ever played on the Nintendo Entertainment System to this day. And if you know, back in the day, parents weren't like, "Oh, I'm gonna go take you to get another game." No, it's like, "That's your game for the weekend, son. Have fun." So I played it for about an hour. I learned nothing. I felt dumber after, and I kind of hated the Nintendo for about a week. But that's my experience.
I have a confession to make, and it's not easy, but I really need to get this off my chest. I have a disease, and it's not fatal or anything. It's also quite common, but nevertheless, I have it, and if I let it get to my head, it could really start to affect my brain. You might know it as YBS, not to be mistaken with IBS. My bowels are fine. Younger brother syndrome. I'm a younger brother, which basically means the motto to my life is sucks to suck. A common side effect of YBS is wanting to hang out with your older siblings, but they don't want to hang out with you. So what do? You tell your mom and she makes them hang out with you, and they resent you the entire time, but you don't care because you get to hang out with the big kids. And that ended up leading me to my first game rental experience. My brother, all his older friends, and myself, we went down to the rental store one day. My mom gave us some money to rent a new N64 game for the night. We're in the store, my brother and his friends are looking at Perfect Dark and 007 because we didn't own those at the time. I'm an idiot. I'm looking at all the games we already have saying, "We should rent this one." And eventually the group came to the conclusion, and by the group I mean my brother, decided to rent Hydro Thunder for the N64. We rented the game, stocked up on candy. I'm talking triple power push pops, tape gum, baby bottle pops, all of the best ones. Those dope trash can candies that all tasted like chalk. Then we went home, ate our candy, put in the game, and had just the greatest time. And the best part for me was we were all so focused and having fun with the game that I'm pretty sure they all forgot that they didn't want me to be there. Yeah, that's definitely not true. They still didn't want me there. And after that, it became somewhat of a tradition. Whenever my brother would invite those friends over, we'd all go to the store, rent the same game, buy the same candy, come home, sit in my brother's basement, his dingy, dank-ass basement room, and play Hydro Thunder, which, by the way, does not really hold up today. I don't know how we played it for so long, because it's not that good. Little later in my life, when I was older, I found out there was another game rental store in my town, and by this age, I had my own money to spend, so I went down there and I rented Lego Star Wars, the original one, for the GameCube. Brought it home, rented it for the week, had a great time with it, and completely forgot about it under my bed, and didn't bring it back for a year and a half. So it's a year and a half later and I'm cleaning my room, I find this game collecting dust in the corner of my closet, and I'm like, oh damn. Naturally, I'm curious, so I give the store a call and nonchalantly ask, "Hey, I have this game that's a little bit late, how much of a late fee do I owe?" And they quote back to me, $324.76. And I'm like 10 years old, that is so much money, I could buy all of the Yu-Gi-Oh cards with that. I could buy China with that. So naturally, I hung up the phone and never went back there again until a few months later when I found out that they were going out of business. And I actually still didn't go in because I felt so guilty. I thought they were going out of business because they needed my $300. I was an emotional wreck for about a week and then I forgot about it. I love telling stories, I love hearing stories, and I want to hear yours. Please scroll down and tell me about a game rental memory that you have. And while you're down there, please check out everybody who contributed to this video. They are all unbelievably underrated, awesome, and offering something different. I'm gonna go see if there's a movie gallery still out there somewhere in the world and try and return this. Wish me luck. Later days.